Welcome back. You're watching Newsmaker Live on DBS with me, Kendall Burton. My guest tonight, Mary Francis, attorney at law and human rights activist, also the coordinator of the National Center for Legal Aid and Human Rights. We're talking tonight about the Prime Minister's address to the nation last night and the developments within the Royal St. Lucia Police Force as it relates to human rights and police killings and suggestions or alleged extrajudicial killings. We were talking about the Prime Minister's address and some of the recommendations that he made last night and the enactment of new legislation. In addition, he has invited, or he said that he invited the CARICOM Implementation Agency for Crime and Security to identify 3 senior investigators to come here to investigate the police killings. What is your take on that recommendation by the Prime Minister?
Well, I think it's an interesting move, and again, why wasn't that thought of before? You know, and I think at least is to have an independence, to lend some level of independence to the whole investigation. Maybe it's a good suggestion, and we'll see what really comes from that, because it's a question of actually going behind the facts, going behind the scenes to actually extract the truth as to what took place. And maybe it might be difficult to get the police officers, knowing the culture, the camaraderie existing among them, to get, although they said they were subject to polygraph tests, but polygraph tests by itself, sometimes people will just speak the truth to avoid themselves being detected and to be of lying. They will speak the truth. They might admit wrongdoing, come up front, like you put in a guilty plea, and admit wrongdoing rather than be caught lying, you know. So maybe in terms of this aspect of it, and because it has reached that stage, probably to lend some kind of independence and impartiality. Yes, maybe if CARICOM can lend some assistance in that regard, I think maybe it's not a bad idea. But I am saying, on top of the coroners, we have our own procedure for dealing with that. Why is it our procedure cannot reveal the truth to us? Why is it we cannot rely on the procedure? And well, we will see how it goes. But I'm saying that why only now he's thinking of inviting the CARICOM Implementation Agency for Crime and Security, when, I mean, if that opportunity or that agency or CARICOM could provide that assistance, why from earlier clock that was not done? And I go back to the fact that since last year I actually wrote asking that there should be a full inquiry outside even the coroner's act on the inquest into the facts and about those guns, the guns that were used, all those things, and all the allegations, all the speculations about visa revocation and so forth. Though we need to have those things, an inquest might not reveal all those things. So in addition to the inquest, there should have been a full inquiry, and if that has been, an attempt has been made to do that now, well, okay, let us go ahead with it, you know.
Okay, so better late than never.
Yes, yes, indeed.
Okay. The Prime Minister says that the killings obviously going to have an impact on the morale of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, with officers pointing fingers at each other, and apparently there's a lot of dissension. Do you think that the police force can recover from what is happening?
It better recover. Better recover. What has happened is actually there are lessons to be drawn from the whole thing, and if the police officers, I mean, take pride in the institution, I mean to say attempts would be had now to actually erase that image and that lack of confidence which that has caused in terms of the populace having confidence in the police force, and even, as you say, break down the morale. They now must take steps to address the situation and to make sure that the police force can run effectively and they can carry out their job professionally. Something has to be done, and what can be done is to have the inquest, and those who are found wanting, those who have acted outside the law, get them out and restore and rebuild the police force. I mean, that's not impossible. But you cannot have persons who are probably have broken the law, who have denied persons their human rights, who have denied persons their right to life and so forth, who are not acting in execution of their duty, who may have been acting for other motives. You cannot allow those persons to remain there. It's only an inquiry will be able to clear the air and start afresh. And I think that's what has to be done. Once people know the truth And once the action has been taken, remedial actions to clear the air, remove elements who have not been acting in the interest of the police force, and they can start the whole process of rebuilding. I myself thought that when the court ruled that Commissioner Osbert Regis was illegally sent out of office and he should be reinstated, I thought it was an opportunity maybe to reinstate Commissioner Regis at that time. But maybe the government must have been caught again in a dilemma, in that there was this popular support for the commissioner, yes, rid the streets of criminals, and then everybody was saying that was a good job, and applauding him. So maybe they didn't want to be on the wrong side of the voting public, and they had no choice. Because I know in another country, instead of confirming the commissioner, he would have had to resign. We know resignations won't come easily at all in those parts when it comes to career and politics. People have to pay the price, people accept responsibility, and they resign. But then what we saw, maybe what the Americans saw, was promotion, was confirmation in office and so forth, you know.
Yeah, but do you feel, or you have any concerns that in light of this embarrassment to the police force, this whole affair that the police was scaled back, refused to be firm when necessary, that criminals will become emboldened at all?
But they would just make things worse for themselves. I don't see that would be a response. How can it be? I mean to say, just a few elements in the police force who actually have been engaged in that type of killing. There are a few, not the whole police force, and I cannot see how they can be refusing to render service and to act professionally, because they themselves created the problems. I mean, policing and professional policing is not about just liquidating persons like that. And if you do that, you cannot be judge and jury. You have to make sure that there are processes to be followed. It is the whole question of the Constitution says when force is justifiable and so forth. So they must realize policing involves professionalism, adherence to the law, because there are consequences. And I cannot see how they would just say, oh well, oh let's react to that type of situation that they find themselves in. When they brought it upon themselves, and aided and abetted by the government of the day in allowing the police to behave, or they were part and parcel of the whole policy. So if the government is supporting you in what you are doing, I mean to say, you will continue to go down the rotten way.
But how do you react to people who think that you're being unnecessarily hard on the police? That human rights advocates like yourself, you're very quiet when innocent people get hurt or fall victim to crime, but when the police act, you speak out.
Well, that is too unfortunate. People must realize that human rights law, it is part of the law of the land. It is part of our constitutional law. Fundamental human rights are actually incorporated and entrenched in our constitution, and therefore are guaranteed in the constitution. And I think it is the duty of every St. Lucian and civil society to actually speak out when those things, there are violations of human rights. Persons don't know other areas in which I also lend a hand. Not only the question of the police. The police always probably comes to mind because it happens so frequently, and as agents of the state, they ought not to behave like that. So maybe it appears that it looks like it is one-sided. We are friends of the criminal and enemies of the police, but it's all about the rule of law. If you're standing for the rule of law for a criminal, it means you're standing for everybody, because the law is there for everybody. If you undermine, let it be undermined because it's a criminal, then when is your turn? Where is the law to protect you? So people must realize, in speaking out for the rule of law and adherence to those various protections granted in the Constitution when it comes to policing and arresting of people, we are speaking out for everybody, the protection of everybody. And then again, the Constitution says everybody in St. Lucia are entitled to those fundamental rights, and it does not actually make exception and say except the criminals. As a matter of fact, it is the underdog that lawyers should be standing up for. These are the persons that need help most. And so we should be, as lawyers, have a responsibility to stand up for the underdog and make sure that they get justice when they really need justice. It's not a question of supporting criminals at all. And the center, the organization, the programs that we do, the capacity is limited. I have very little help in terms of manpower. I am basically the only lawyer, and Martinez Francis Francois, I must not forget him well. He also has been involved in advocacy. We do advocacy through the media. We do sometimes legal representation. There are many persons who are the victims of crime, persons who have been victims of rape, and persons who generally want to know what is the status of the case. I intervene for them either from the DPP's office or maybe try to get information from the police as to what is the status of the case, because those people need to know what is happening. Some time ago there was a launching by the DPP's office of the, I think, the victims charter, a charter of victims' rights, something to that effect. I can't recall the real name of the document, whereby the victims have certain rights to be told, to be informed about the case and all that, you know. And I'm wondering who's actually complying with this charter and so forth. Persons hear about adjournments who do not know what is going on. So that is the other side of the coin. That type of work is also done to ensure that people get justice, that the cases are moving forward, and they know exactly what is going on. And you have other areas of human rights, not only just the civil rights and the criminal law. You have areas where you have the so-called housing rights. Persons come, it's unfortunate that they come too late at the end of the day when maybe they're about to lose the land or lose the house. They would come. That is because maybe we have not done a lot of publicity about the National Center. I wouldn't say so. People see my face often in the media and they say, okay, well, it's a one-man show going on, but there's an organization. The organization can only serve the public in the ways that they want it to serve them if they become members of the organization, and where we can, everybody can get involved, understand human rights, the various aspects of human rights, the full range of human rights, and the laws and so forth. So persons in St. Lucia need to realize that they have a duty to actually assist in the development of the country by becoming members of those civil society organizations. And I'm not happy in terms of the people are not trying to become members of the National Center for Legal and Human Rights. Many persons figure that myself, I don't know, Martinez, that we receive money for the work that we do. We do it out of, I know I do the work out of my great interest in ensuring that the rule of law is well and alive in St. Lucia, and the question of justice, justice, justice. If there is no justice, well, people become cynical. People become, there's a lot of apathy in the society. And then what happens? The law of the jungle takes over and so forth. And not only that, based on our history, our legacy, our history of slavery and colonialism, where you know the state was actually seen as the enemy of the poor man and so forth, where people were marginalized, where there was no access to justice. We have to transform that, and we have to give people a voice, let them see, well, yes, you can obtain justice, there is access to justice. Why? Because you don't have money, they're not denied access to justice. In making a whole nonsense of our constitution, which says everyone has a right to a fair trial, and there is equality before the law, and so forth. So we as a people, I see charity begins at home. Whilst we can get help from the outside, we must come to our own assistance and see what we can do for ourselves, you know.
Okay, you've raised a number of issues that as the show progresses we want to touch on. But before we do that, I want to ask you, how would you describe your relationship with the current Commissioner of Police?
Well, I don't know. I see him doing his job and I'm doing my work. That's all I know. He's doing his job and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. From time to time I would write letters seeking clarification or trying to get information, and I notice, well, the response is not always forthcoming. So I don't know. I do my work and he does his work.
Okay, we'll take a break now, and when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Mary Francis, attorney and human rights advocate. You're watching Newsmaker Live on DBS. We'll be right back.